here. Your panel spoke about diversity and inclusion. Would you like to share some key highlights from your panel?
The larger thing we discussed was about the fact that there needs to be inclusion. That's fundamental because that's what makes diversity come in. The other piece was about the fact that this has to come really from the heart. It can't be a metric which kind of always be done from a brain standpoint. People have to subscribe to it rather than see it as a compliance piece or see it something as a dashboard.
Right.
Till the time one will not feel the need for being inclusive, things will never happen. So I think that were the two key takeaways what we discussed in our panel.
Lovely. As we're nearing the end of 2025, we're looking forward to 2026. What are some of the HR trends that you believe are going to be very relevant in the coming years?
So I would call it two trends. One is this entire piece around technology assimilation. We have been talking about AI. It's still really not that much ingrained into it, and it still needs a lot of ramping up in terms of to be more accurate and kind of usage of that. So that's one. Second important piece in my view is about the entire competence around organization development. As we are moving in this world, which is earlier, it's more as a Bani world, as we call it, from a VUCA world to Bani world. The OD competence is a very critical competence which an HR professional needs to have. So having that skill will be the one which will really differentiate, and somebody who's able to master that trend will be able to ensure that the organizations are much more effective and increase the business outcomes from an HR standpoint.
Lovely. So today's event, it was mainly focused on global capability centers. Now earlier, if we look at, let's say a decade back, global capability centers were known to be cost centers. That's it. But today they're known as innovation hubs. Why do you think they've transformed into innovation hubs, and how can one become that?
So the fundamental thing is the value which is being provided by the GCC centers. When they came in years back, it was more about the fact that cost arbitrage. You're getting cheap labor here. An engineer would cost a fraction of what an engineer would cost there. But more and more organizations are realizing the kind of capability which the Indian talent has, the kind of work which they are doing, and that's when you see that when we say global capability centers coming here, they are actually doing a more value-added work than the regular routine work which earlier used to be there. So I think the key differentiator is the Indian talent, which is hardworking, which is ambitious, which wants to grow, and which is also equally keen to learn.
Right.
So put it all together, you have a very, very potent combination of a facility or a country which is able to deliver to a much larger extent the value to the organizations than what it used to be earlier, and that's what organizations are actually finding it over here, and that's when they are all looking up to India to set up their GCCs and sprucing it up.
Right. Coming back to technology, how do you think AI helps us today, helps the HRs today to train, hire, retain the employees? And it's been happening for a long time, but what's different today?
See, the fact that AI is making the life easier,
Right.
We need to understand that a lot of tasks which were more mundane, routine, it's easily being done by AI. You don't really need to, if I were to really, a simple thing like draft an organization announcement or create a policy around it, I don't really need to spend hours around drafting, putting the right terminology, right legal framework and all. That's where it is all helping. The key part is that HR professionals need to understand how to contextualize it in the context of the organization they are working and the context of the environment they are in. So you can't really copy paste it. It's an aid. Use it as an aid. Don't use it in its totality because that will really not give you the right answers. And HR is very contextual. What will work in my organization will not work in your organization because the culture is different, people are different, the business context is different, the people's backgrounds are different, what they need is different. So using technology as an aid to create something new, but then contextualizing it basis what your organization stands for, I think this is where the key amalgamation is today of technology and HR.
Lovely. Any last piece of advice for the next gen HR leaders?
HR is about heart. Don't lose that. I think that's something which I would say. This is one thing which sometimes people get flown or kind of blown away in this context of business partnering, and then in that they lose sometimes the human touch.
Right.
business partnering is important, but do it with heart. I think that's very critical, and that's what I would suggest to all future HR generations.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for being a part of this event today.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you.